Good evening. Welcome, everybody. I'm just kind of getting everything set up on the stream, and looks like I'm having a tech issue already. So please bear with me. That's just the way these things go. So welcome. So we have Ed Diehl in the house, and we're going to be talking about guns. This is something that's, first and foremost, it's the most important issue that I follow, just because it's kind of what I do for a living here in the state of Oregon. And so what I want to do is I'm going to turn this over to him, and then I'm going to figure out my tech so I can get more people in the room. And what I'm going to do is and the layout for this kind of format that I'm trying here is I'm going to have 3 candidates. I've already selected the candidates. I have 2 that are scheduled. There's 1 that I'm still working on, and I want to give them the same questions. Obviously, and they're going to, get their opportunity to respond to Oregon gun owners. And I think what's important to note here is, everybody knows, and that way you guys can make a good decision when it comes to who we're going to support when it goes into the primary and hopefully into the general. So I think it's really, really important. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ed and kind of let him kind of talk about his vision for a few minutes and what we're going to do.
Well, Derek, thanks. It's great to be with you. And and I've been all over the place for the last week or so. Well, several weeks, and it's continuing. But we're having a lot of fun with it. We've been meeting some amazing people all around the state and hearing issues from all across the state. And it's inspiring for me because it confirms we're doing the right thing, and we're in this fight, and we're finding all the issues that unite us as Oregonians from across the urban-rural divide. So we're doing the right thing. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you a little bit, just get into my background and experience a bit, so people know. People know me as a state representative for House District 17 that covers East Salem through the San Em Canyon. I've been in that position since 2023, and it's been an honor to serve. And a lot of people know me through the No Tax Oregon referendum too, where I had the honor of leading the volunteer team that gathered 250,000 signatures in record time. And that sent a message to our legislature and to the governor that Oregonians are waking up. But, before that, I spent my career in business and engineering. I grew up, don't hold this against me, I grew up in Montana. I grew up on a cattle ranch in western Montana. My dad was a logger and a truck driver, and my one grandpa was a sawmiller. The other grandpa was a forest ranger, and so that kind of framed my upbringing. And I had the ability to go to Stanford University, where I got a bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering. I love geeking out sometimes with that. But the best thing about that was meeting my wife, who grew up in Scio, which is just down the hill from where we live today. So when we graduated, we decided we wanted to be in Oregon. And that's where we wanted to raise our family. And that's where I started a business with 2 business partners. We started Business Concept Systems in Albany, and we did factory automation and controls. We would go into manufacturers of all kinds, from aerospace to food products to wood products, and we would put the computer equipment on the machines that make stuff. And it was great because I believe in manufacturing. We need to be a country that not only thinks of the great ideas, but we build it here. We have to build it here. It's about national security. It's about job security and all that. And I built that company up from scratch. I sold a car. I leveraged my credit cards. I put my house on the line with 2 little kids at home. But that was my dream, to start this business. And we worked it hard. And we built an award-winning business with 100 employees, multiple offices, doing great work for a lot of companies all over the country. And frankly, we ended up working countries around the world. I've been in sawmills in New Zealand and Australia and all over Canada.
Awesome.
And all over Oregon. But a lot of my customers are gone, and that's one of the reasons I'm running. But so we did that, and I sold my interest in that about 8 years ago to my business partners, and retired. But I did a lousy job of that, as you can tell. Derek, don't ever retire. You might run for governor someday.
Yeah. I keep getting that comment, and I'm like, I would rather be on the outside looking in.
Right. Right. But my vision for Oregon and why I'm doing this is simple. We live in the most beautiful state in the country. We do. That's one of the reasons I'm here. But what good is that if you can't afford to live here?
Absolutely.
If your kids can't stay because they can't find a good job, if your kids can't get a good education, and if your streets aren't safe, and if businesses are fleeing. So, my vision for Oregon is to be not only the most beautiful state in the country, but the greatest state to live, to work, to raise your family, and retire in a place where your kids and grandkids can be by your side because they don't have to leave and find a better job. That is possible in Oregon. And after 4 decades of one-party governance, we are seeing the impacts of that. So for me, it's about government accountability, affordability, and a thriving economy. That's what I'm running for. That's what I'm fighting for. And that's what I'm going to bring when I'm governor.
Awesome. I had a busy month and a half with you. And so I got to kind of see that firsthand. And I'll kind of talk about that as we get kind of after the questions, because I do want to get to the questions. But I did, there's some things that we did together as Oregonians and Oregon gun owners that really hadn't been done before. And, part of it was through your help. And there was a lot of people that helped, but, the one thing that I'll kind of lead off with this, and I'll circle back later on, is that Rule 27 complaint. Okay. This was something that literally sucked all the oxygen out of that room up there in the marble building. And this was something that I filed because of something I noticed that happened inside the room, but I wouldn't have known about this Rule 27 complaint if it wasn't for you. And so it was your leadership, your guidance in that pivotal time for me that helped me really start this ball that started to roll and picked up momentum. And now there's 40 plus stories that went across the country and really took and put a dark cloud around House Bill 4145. And so, the conversation that you and I had with Tony, and that was on my way home, and that was after our public hearing on the first day.
I was on the short session. I was in the K Falls over the mountains to go to an event.
Yeah. And it was, you sent me an email with the link, and I followed the link. I filled out the form, and here we are. And it was that moment that I knew that obviously you knew how this game was played. You've been inside the building, you've seen how this stuff happens. And so for you to kind of help me, kind of guide me through this process, because I'm still learning this process. I mean, I've spent the last 4 to 5 years inside the building heavily every session, just trying to advocate for my rights and the rights of Oregonians. And I've grown a big following because of that. I've also had a lot of great friends that I've met out of this process, but I've also met some great people inside the building on both sides of the aisle. And so that's where I'm coming at from like when a gun rights standpoint is, this is not a partisan issue for me. This is something where all of us as Americans, as Oregonians, have a constitutionally protected right. And it's just whether or not we exercise that and defend that. And so that's where, we get, Democrats, we get non-affiliated voters, we get Republicans, we all share this two-way right. And that's something that's very important to me going forward is I'm looking for a candidate that can kind of unite us. Right. And so that's part of, the questions that I'm going to be asking you tonight is obviously so we can all get behind one candidate. And I know it's a really contentious time for us because everybody's got their perfect candidate and they got their candidate and they want their candidate to win. But the thing is, we have to think logically and we can't think emotionally here, because if we think emotionally and we don't get involved with the process, that's going to reelect Tina Kotek. And that's something none of us want. And so I think the one thing that does unite us is the fact that we have a common goal, and that's to make sure that she's out of her office.
And everywhere I go across the state, I can be downtown Portland, I can be in Burns or Brookings. Every place I'm going, they say, if this doesn't change, I'm leaving. There's always somebody in the audience that is at that tipping point. They've had enough. And so things have to change. And that's why I'm doing this, Derek. I want a place where my kids and grandkids can grow up and be proud of.
Yeah.
And we're just going in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. So you ready for the questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's do it. Okay. So number one, so obviously every candidate is going to get the same question. So, my first question is, what specific actions would you take as governor to roll back or modify recent gun control laws passed in Oregon?
Derek, the one I'm focused on is repealing Measure 114.
Mhm.
You and I have talked about it a lot. I'm sure your audience knows it's a broad overreach, and I appreciate the work that Tony Aiello is doing on that in court. Honored to have his endorsement, but that I don't think it barely passed. It barely passed, and I think that if that was brought to the voters today, they would kill it.
I believe that. Yeah, it was less than 1%. Yeah.
Yeah, less than 1%. So I'm going to focus on repealing Measure 114, try and do it through the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
But I like bringing petitions to voters. So if I can't get it through the legislature, I would be honored to be the first active governor to be co-chief petitioner on a initiative petition to do the same thing and bring it directly to the voters, because it is such an egregious overreach, just bureaucracy upon bureaucracy, and I just think it's wrong on every level. So that's what I would focus on, that one. Yeah.
And I think that's a good move because, obviously that's the one that's most pressing. I mean, that's the one that's smoldering right now in the building. I mean, obviously there's some other things. I think what I'm looking for as I'm staying up a new organization is having a teammate up there inside the building that I can work with closely to organize all of my audience, all of my gun owners, to get them either to the polls or to fill out petitions or to do whatever we need to do to make this change in Oregon. And so, I think, there's so many different issues that we need to face when it comes to Oregon gun rights. But I think starting off with the fire that's already lit and going and smoking, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we can figure out how to either, maybe defund it. If you're going to talk about the legislators, like from what I'm seeing, we don't have the funding for any of that.
No, we don't. So that's definitely an option, is just to defund it. But I think if you focus on those issues like this one, where we're putting up barriers for regular citizens to own guns, by putting a fee, putting these training and background requirements in place, and then limiting the magazine sizes. Those things are direct affronts on our constitutional rights, and I love that Oregon reinforces the fact that we have a right to self-defense in our Constitution. Mm-hmm. It's just spelled out explicitly. Mm-hmm. So those are, I think, like repealing 114 will have broad appeal. That it is, like you said, it is a bipartisan issue. That we're dealing with some very loud special interests on the front. But I think I know where the majority of the Oregon people are at, and they're on our side on this.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm gonna get on to the next one. So I appreciate that answer. And so another one's kind of goes in the same line. So do you support repealing or reforming Measure 114? If so, what would your approach be doing that legally and effectively? And it seems like you kind of touched on that already.
Yeah, I would definitely bring legislation to repeal it. Like I said, I'd be prepared to bring it directly to the people. Use the bully pulpit on this issue. We can do things with funding, basically not provide funding for it. So there's a lot of things around that I would be definitely all in on, and that would be my focus.
Okay. No, I think that's the right move. And obviously we have to look at what the layout of the building looks like going back into the long session, and so I'm preparing for a long session, and it could be a ruthless one. They didn't get what they wanted in this short session.
No, and they're going to come back. You know it,
Mhm.
Derek. They're coming back for this. There's a
Mhm.
number of other ones that they're coming back with. There's a number of very narrow special interests that they're obligated to.
Mhm.
And I don't understand why, there's just a misunderstanding that, you know, this we should be going after the criminals, not the honest law-abiding gun owners.
Mhm.
I would be a criminal if Measure 114 takes effect. You probably are too, Derek. I don't know.
Well, guilty as charged,
Yeah,
unfortunately, just because of
yeah,
policy. And
yeah. It's turning a lot of law-abiding citizens that use guns respectfully and train their. I taught my kids how to use guns and how to use them safely.
Mhm.
And so anyway, we're targeting the wrong people with these laws.
Absolutely. So on to number 3.
Yeah.
So how would your administration balance Second Amendment rights with the concerns about public safety and quote unquote gun violence?
Oh boy. Well, guns don't cause. It's people that are violent, and we have to go after the criminals. I do not believe that rights and public safety are opposites. They go together. And we have to protect Second Amendment rights. It is our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. So I believe we have to actively go after the criminals. I'm, one of the things that I'm supporting is eliminating catch and release. A lot of that came through Senate Bill 48, I think it was, a few years ago. We're
Mhm.
actually going to run a petition. Representative Kevin Mannix has a petition to repeal much of the catch and release laws. So, making sure that we don't have repeat violent offenders going through a broken system, and we don't want to go after lawful gun ownership. So that's what it is for me, going after the
Okay.
criminals. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And so this one's kind of further down the pipeline here. It's, would you
Yeah.
support constitutional carry in Oregon, or do you believe a current concealed carry permitting system should remain in place?
No, I do support constitutional carry. I really like the premise around that. I don't think, I think it should be free. I don't think fees should be determining your rights.
Absolutely.
Both my wife and I we have our concealed carry. We're in Lynn County. They actually make it pretty straightforward to do it.
They do. Good sheriff.
Yeah, good sheriff here.
Mhm.
So we've done that, but we found it's very narrow. Oregon's I think it's only honored in Oregon.
I think there's about 22 states that honor. Nobody has formal reciprocity, though.
Yeah.
So
Is it
it's not as.
because I know if I did Oregon and Utah, I would cover all the Western states. But
Yeah, most of them.
most Western
Besides,
states don't honor the Oregon concealed
yeah,
carry.
yeah, you're right. So that's something that I see maybe on the horizon, but it's not something like, as somebody that's trying to stand up or I don't know where we're gonna have to ask the members. We're gonna be a member based 501c4, and so if that's a route that we want to take as members and we can get behind them, that's something that maybe we'll write legislation. I think the biggest thing that I'm going to be doing with the new organization ORGOAL is we're going to be writing lawsuits. We're going to be filing lawsuits
Yeah.
when we get the funding together. We're going to be writing legislation. We're going to be helping elect candidates. We're going to be doing all of these things that, we created a blueprint. Believe it or not, the last 5 years that I've been inside the building, I've been developing a blueprint. We saw it work in this short session. And so I want to use this blueprint that I've created to obviously train people from all over the state. We have 36 counties. I want to have 36 county chapter leads that they basically are in charge of organizing, getting the information straight to their people and their neighbors and their counties, and standing up and standing together and to push back on this stuff. And we're going to do it together. And so that's kind of my vision for what I'm trying to do with this new organization. And so it kind of goes along with what you're trying to do is become governor, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm looking in August where, I'm going to have official trainings and going to go over all over the state, and we're going to be training, advocates like myself to do what I do in their counties. And we're going to mobilize people. We're going to teach them how to use technology. We have a new website that's being developed right now that's going to be cutting edge. And basically, we're going to be able to do everything that we did without any infrastructure in this short session. We're going to be able to do it with technology. We're going to automate systems. We're going to be able to send 1,000 to 2,000 emails to a select group of representatives or senators, and just bombard their email, and just the email campaigns, register for testimony, all these different things what we're going to do. And so, but the goal is to just change, what's happening in our Oregon gun rights here. And, there's a lot of cross pollination here, right? Where we have other parts. We have the water rights, we have parental rights, we have ag rights, all these things. If we could get everybody under one big tent, we would be a force to reckon with. And so that's where I'm trying to get everything kind of in place so we can do that. So, on to my next question is number 5. So what role should the state government play in firearm training and safety education, especially for first-time gun owners?
I think the state can have a role to encourage training and firearm safety, but I adamantly don't believe that training should be a barrier to a constitutional right. That's what they're trying to do with Measure 114. Many things. I went through hunter safety when I was a kid, and I still remember that training and some of the video I saw about how to use a firearm safely. I remember a video about how to cross a fence when you have a rifle. When my son got old enough, I took him to firearm safety. I think I went to Albany Rifle and Pistol Club, and I think we paid a nominal fee just to cover some of the materials that we received, but it was a great class. And I'm sure my son still remembers it too. That kind of training is great. We should be encouraging it, but it should absolutely not be a requirement or a barrier to your constitutional right to keep and bear arms.
Sweet. Yeah. And maybe if we had to carve out for funding for it. My concern is I'm seeing the other side. So the Moms Demand Action types, their funding is dried up. And so, really? I heard conversations in the building about how they are trying to get the legislature to actually earmark funds for them. And so that's very troubling because they don't have good intentions. Everything comes with a cost to us as Oregon gun owners. And so, that's something where I'm very hesitant about getting the state involved unless it's going to be like funding legit instructors or legit programs,
I'm averse to it too. I would rather see the state encourage it and have gun clubs and other folks put up these training programs. I think it would be, you'd end up with better programs. You'd end up with more programs. And then you're not dependent on this revolving public funding, because public funding will come with strings, and you don't want those strings.
Absolutely. So on to my next one. So my next question is, how would you handle potential conflicts between Oregon law and federal firearm regulations? Kind of seems currently that the states are, pointing fingers at the feds. How will we deal with that under your leadership?
Well, you got to defend the Constitution first, and protect Oregon's rights and our state sovereignty. So if there's any conflict with, we're going to fight it. We'll fight it in court, absolutely, and resist any kind of federal overreach. I don't know what you're looking at specifically, Derek. Are there specific issues you're looking for?
Well, I'm seeing, Dan Rayfield put out a post yesterday about, protecting voter rights. I'm concerned as the pendulum swings, like if it goes to let's say it goes to the other side of the aisle for the president, and
Yeah.
I'm concerned about, how we, if they want to infringe upon our rights, what you could do as the governor to kind of push back and help preserve our civil liberties if that were to happen.
Yeah, we would, as governor, I would be defending our state constitution if there were ever any federal laws that looked like they were overstretching that. We're going to push back on it. Yeah.
Okay.
And you talk about our attorney general; they're getting really worked up over the fact that we're going to require citizenship, proof of citizenship to vote. That seems like a pretty low bar, but yet, yeah. They're getting pretty worked up.
I have some things that I need to talk to you offline.
Okay.
It doesn't relate to guns, but it's,
Okay.
I'm now a trusted messenger. And so people, they know I have a microphone. They know I have the context on that. So now they send me stuff. And so there's things that are happening in the Oregon DMV that are very troubling that we all should be aware of. And I'll kind of reach out after this to kind of touch base and see what we can do to bring that to light.
We know that the DMV registered non-U.S. citizens to vote.
Yeah.
And I had a meeting with the DMV. Actually, Danielle Bethel and I went and had an extensive meeting and discussed that at length with them, and I could see how that happened. I design software for a living, and their system was not designed in a very good way. It was designed to be error prone. And guess what? We saw errors.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. That's for a separate conversation.
Yeah. Separate conversation.
Yeah. So, but it's a really important one. That's the thing is people do not
Mhm.
trust our elections. And so we should do everything, especially, the attorney general, secretary of state, like those are offices that should be there to make sure that all of our processes are 100% legitimate and can be audited, so that's kind of where I'm at. So on to my next one.
Yep.
Is, do you support expanding protections for gun owners at a state level, such as preemption law, limits on local firearms restrictions?
I do. I don't like the idea of a patchwork of laws that interfere with your constitutional right. So yeah, your rights shouldn't change by city or by block. So I do support that.
Okay.
There's questions, whether you go into a government building or the Capitol. Like when I go to the Capitol now, I have to go through a metal detector. As a representative going through a secured garage, I still have to go through a metal detector, and no weapons are allowed, except if you're, deputized.
Deputized, yeah.
I have some colleagues that are deputized. So,
Mm-hmm.
I've
one I'd like to change.
yeah, agreed. So yeah, I don't like our rates changing by city. I don't agree with the patchwork. So the preemption makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so number 8 is, what is your position on red flags? Red flag laws, would you seek to expand, limit, or repeal them?
Yeah, I'm very skeptical of red flag laws. And frankly, Derek, I'd like your take on where you think Oregon's red flag law is. I know that there's been over 800 petitions. A lot of them, probably 3/4 of them, have been granted. It's really a due process concern. If you're going to go in and take somebody's weapon, interfere with their constitutional rights, you better have a damn good reason for doing it. And so I have a lot of concerns about that due process and the transparency and all that. So I'm really curious what you're seeing. We have a track record in Oregon now with this red flag law. Is it accomplishing the goal? Is it interfering with people's constitutional right? What's your take on it?
I would say at this point, it's kind of, it's not conclusive. And I feel that, obviously due process rights is a big issue for me with this stuff. My concern is how it's weaponized against, gun owners. Some of my concerns are how it
Yeah.
puts law enforcement and people inside the home at risk. If we look at our ERPOs, extreme risk protection orders, there's been instances all over the country where there's been people that have been shot by law enforcement as they're making forced entry into the homes. So
Oh,
I
wow.
think there's got to be a way to obviously protect the civil liberties of the people that are being accused, but also make it a pathway so they do have some due process rights. So if they are being illegally accused or unlawfully accused, there should be a way for them to be able to get their firearms back, without breaking the bank, without having to get an attorney, if it's unfounded. And so I think
Yeah.
right now the way things are all set up is all of us as Oregon gun owners are guilty until we prove ourselves innocent. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And so you look at an affirmative defense. I mean, that's another thing that's part of Measure 114, where we have to prove that we're in possession of this magazine before this magical date, right? And so I think their goal with this is
Did
just
you keep your receipts, Derek?
no.
No,
I
I
will
don't have
never.
your
I will.
receipts
I
for
will.
those
I'll say this on the videos. I'm not going to
magazines.
provide a. I'm not going to provide a receipt. Like
No,
what I
I'm not
did
gonna.
between with my pocketbook is not the government's business, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to take a picture. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to. I'm
Yeah.
not going to comply. I'm going to tell you right now. And so because this is unconstitutional, because I know what Oregon Article Section 127 means, and I also know what my Second Amendment means, and so that's all of these laws are infringements, and so that's where we have to come together as Oregon gun owners, to put them on the defense, and we have to write legislation, and we have to clean up the mess that they've created over the 30 to 40 years of this quote unquote gun control and this gun control movement. And this is our opportunity, as we have momentum that we've built. We've got resources that are coming
Yeah.
together, and so now it's our turn to kind of change what's happening and kind of make Oregon gun law what we want it to be, and to have it actually work for us. And we should be focusing on criminals. There should be extra penalties for being a felon in possession of a firearm. All of these things that you and I know should be the norm that are not being
Right.
followed. And so it's time for the adults to take the power back. These are not serious people up inside the building, all the way to the governor's office.
Well, there was a bill this session, right, to increase the penalties for felons who were in possession of firearms, and the Democrats killed that bill.
But this is the thing is with that bill, three firearms.
Yeah.
Okay,
3.
so a felon in possession for you and I, for most average people, one gun would be a felon in possession of a firearm, correct? Not we can have up to 3. I mean, if we're concerned about guns and illegal guns, why are we giving felons 3 free guns or 2 free guns? They won't be charged with the felon in possession. So it just makes they're not serious people. And I think there's enough people that are waking up. They're seeing the fact that this is. I mean, they see it at the pump, they see it at the grocery store, they see it at their kids' school, or we're last in the nation when it comes to graduation rates. They're seeing all the writing on the wall. And I guess my biggest thing for us as Oregon gun owners is to be courageous. Know that this is our time. This is our time. We are not going to get a shot like this probably in a long while to get a Republican governor. And so this is where we have to put our ego aside. We have to be humble. We have to understand that there's not a perfect candidate, but there is one that can win. And that's where we need to go.
And we got to vote. We have to.
We have to vote.
And that is despite the election integrity challenges we have. We all know those challenges. Got a set of rules. We got to follow those rules, use them to our advantage, and then fix the system when we have the opportunity. But this is our chance. If we got this IP28 thing coming up too, it's probably going to be on the ballot.
Let's hope.
If that doesn't bring every hunter out and vote, I don't know what would. I mean, but hunting and fishing and butchering, you can't even kill a mouse unless it's in self-defense. It is absurd, and it's funded by some out-of-state guy. We're kind of the petri dish for any crazy progressive idea, because we're a relatively small population compared to Washington and California. So we're a cheap date when it comes to running a progressive experiment.
Well, they did that with 110. They did that with 110. We were, and so 110, we have measure 114 now, we have IP 28. And so that's where, we should be changing that. Like, is that something we should change the referendum process? And these things should be vetted as, are they of sound mind and judgment when they're going on the ballot?
Well, one thing I tried to do is bring legislation to so that out-of-staters could not fund a petition drive or have very limited resources. And Florida has done this. I looked at it. The first try they did it, it was unconstitutional, but they refined the bill, they've refined the law. We need to bring the same law in Oregon. Okay. If you're going to bring a petition, you better live here.
Absolutely.
Not from out of state. Heck, that petition's being funded from out of the country.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So on to my next question is rolling along. So number 9, how would you ensure that law-abiding gun owners are not negatively impacted by policies aimed at reducing crime?
Yeah. I look at it. There's really one thing. Does it stop criminals or does it just burden the people who are following the law? You gotta answer that question. You got to target. Our laws target ownership instead of behavior. You got to target the behavior. I don't want to see any registries. I don't want to see bureaucratic traps. The thing is, we're not suspects just because we own a gun, So, yep. So I'd look at it through that lens. Is it designed to stop criminals or is it going after law-abiding citizens? And as somebody who owns a number of guns, a wide variety of guns, I'm sensitive to that.
Okay. I appreciate that. And so my last question, then we'll open it up to the crowd, and hopefully there's some good questions in there. So number 10, what is your plan for working with the Oregon legislature if it remains controlled by lawmakers who support stricter gun regulations?
Yeah, well, obviously it's going to be a shockwave when I'm elected governor, because I'll be the first Republican governor in 4 decades. And that alone, even if it's by a small margin, that comes with a mandate. And so that will tell me that Oregon voters are ready for change and ready for something different, and ready for somebody that represents the will of the people. So when I look at this and look at all the legislation, I'm looking, is this where the people are at? And my belief, and I think it plays out with 114, is people want their Second Amendment rights protected and their Oregon constitutional gun rights protected to defend themselves. And that crosses party lines. So that's going to be the lens that I bring to it. And if I believe there's a law that they try and pass a law that goes against the will of the people or goes in opposition to Oregonians' constitutional rights, I'm prepared to veto it.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. As I was looking for, obviously, and that's where I'm pushing for a new governor, especially a Republican governor, because I'm hoping that we'll get vetoes. That's my hope, and so that's good to hear.
Well, that's what part of the power is as being a Republican when you have a progressive majority, is you have that veto power. So I'm prepared to use that as needed, not just with gun laws, but any laws that are infringing on our constitutional rights or going against, or like I said, my vision of Oregon to be the greatest place to live, work, raise a family, and retire. And there's a lot of things around that. So the veto power and the ability to line item veto brings a lot of options on the table because of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And if you're willing, I've got some comments from some questions from the crowd. So I got one from Brian here, which I like. I think it's good. So what is your roadmap to affect positive change happen with a majority Democrat House and Senate as Oregon governor?
Yeah, well, it's. I hope that's not the case when I'm elected, but it is possible. I think what will happen is we'll gain some seats, but we probably won't get in the majority. Uh, so what I will do, like I said, I will bring a policy agenda that is the people's agenda. Even if it's a small margin of victory, that still brings with it a mandate after 40 years without a Republican. It'll be a big deal. So I will have a policy agenda that I will be bringing forward. I also see a lot of fractions, and Derek, you probably saw them. You're in that building. There's fractions in the Democrat. So what I will be doing is looking to build coalitions, issue by issue, coalitions across party lines. It's what I do already in the building, and it'll be possible. And I think it'll be especially open when there's a Republican in the governor's office. Is that opportunity will be there. We talked about the veto capability. The other thing we got to remember, the governor selects the agency heads. The governor is setting the priorities for these agencies. With the agency heads and agency leadership, you have a lot of control over how rules are written. And so when I get through the primary, one of my focuses will be on identifying who will take leadership in each one of these agencies. So when we're elected in November, we will have a plan ready to roll out, because it's taken us a long time. I mean, we've been working and driving us into this ditch for years. We need to start our recovery as quickly as possible. And that's what I will do as governor. So we will have new leadership, new priorities, ready to revisit these regulations, which are killing our businesses, inhibiting progress in this state. And Derek, I want to emphasize, I'm hearing this whether I'm in downtown Portland or a cattle rancher in Eastern Oregon. They're all complaining about agency overreach. The agencies don't listen to them. They're presenting arbitrary barriers. And I was talking to a business in White City. This outfit has been trying to get an audience with Governor Kotek because they're trying to expand. They're facing a lot of barriers to that in Oregon. You know what's going on? Texas has reached out to them. They were having a conversation with Texas Governor Greg Abbott, but Governor Kotek doesn't give them the time of day. That is outrageous, and that will change when I'm governor. With my business perspective, my engineering perspective, I'm going to be talking to these business owners, understanding how can we help you grow? How can we help you create great jobs in this state, in the cities, and in the rural areas? So that's a huge thing for me, and I'm committed to bring that. And so anyway, I got off track on the legislative piece, but there's a lot of things you can do as governor, even when you have a majority Democrat legislature.
I think it would actually bring them to the table to an extent. You know,
It will,
I think,
absolutely.
I think, and Brian has a follow-up question to that. I think I'll kind of piggyback on the fracture part that you brought up. The reason I was able to be so successful with what I did with my campaign up there in that short session was I was able to identify all of these fractures and then drive wedges. Okay. That's what we did is we made memes, we made email campaigns, and we fired off. And so it was a way to, split them up, make them where they're a little bit smaller groups. They're a little bit more manageable. And there's definitely, it was the first time that I've been up there where there was actually, they were not all voting the same way. And you saw that on the House floor with Julie Fahey. She did not have control of her caucus. And so that's where that was fun to watch, to be honest with you, because I could just I put out a call to action, and you could just see them kind of just bumping into each other like the little robots they are. But I feel that that's going to be the best move, is to be able to build coalitions up there, because we do have common ground. So we have to identify that common ground, and then we expand upon that to hopefully get the change that we need.
Well, and now is the time. I mean, everybody is feeling this economic downturn that is uniquely Oregon, Portland especially. Tax rates going up, tax revenue going down, businesses are fleeing, good jobs are leaving, all these private sector jobs are going away, and the ones that are being replaced are in government and education and healthcare. They're not, they're consuming tax dollars. They're not generating tax dollars. That is a serious problem that now the whole state is feeling. And so I think it's an opportunity for somebody with that business perspective to come in and provide some stable leadership. And that's what I'm going to bring.
And this is his follow-up question is, the coalition is exactly the answer he was hoping to hear. Second question, how will Oregon unions affect your decision-making as governor? Meaning, will you side with the people of Oregon over unions? And I think,
I'm kind of offended that he's bringing this question. Maybe he doesn't know me, but I go around talking about how come a 60,000 SEIU members, half of which don't even agree with their own leadership, but how is it that they have more voice in that building, in the Capitol, than the 250,000 people that signed that referendum petition? Because they do. And that is wrong. And I've seen that since I got in that building since 2023. That building is controlled by public sector unions. There's an incestuous relationship between they fund Democrats, they get them elected, then they go negotiate with the same people they elected, and we wonder why our government has doubled in size in the last 10 years. That is why. I am prepared to take them head on. I filed ethics complaints against the SEIU. I'm working with Freedom Foundation. This is the toughest battle we have in the state. And as governor, it will be difficult. But I'll tell you what, this is about union leadership. It's not about union membership. Union membership is also not very happy with their leadership. And a lot of them their dues paying members are dwindling. Their leadership is not representing the best interests of those workers on a number of instances. So anyway, I have no problem going toe to toe with those guys.
I think that's important. A lot of it is we have different, perspectives here, right? So there's obviously, we have Oregon hunters in the house, so obviously, will you open up gated BLM land for hunting?
Yes.
I'm not sure how that works.
To the extent I can on BLM land, yeah.
I think one thing I'll kind of I'll piggyback off of that, where I don't like the way Weyerhaeuser has shut down their property to us, and they want to charge us $350 to get on the property, yet they're getting tax breaks because of their timberland, So I feel that should be addressed, because I understand the trash is an issue, and that's why they said that they closed them down. But I feel that they really made it harder for just the average Oregon hunter to get out and enjoy the time in the woods, because they've shrunken the area for us to hunt.
They really have, and it irritates me too. I live not too far from Snow Peak, and I used to go up on my dirt bikes on those roads, and now they're blocked off. There's got to be a better solution than blocking it off. There's a few bad apples. Go after the bad actors. Don't block it off to the vast majority of people that are actually law abiding and doing making good. So, especially since it's public.
Yeah. So another one from him, I believe, is how will you lower taxes? Is that something
good question
that can be done under our current?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's part of my platform. I'm calling for a 10% tax cut. It's not an across the board tax cut. But one element of it is to eliminate the corporate activities tax. That is a hidden sales tax. Not everybody realizes that Oregon has a constitutional, just a second here. Oregon has a constitutional prohibition on a sales tax, but we have one. We have a sales tax. It's called the corporate activities tax. So I will repeal that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that makes up almost the full 10%. And in addition to that, I'll be looking for other tax cuts as well. I'm supportive of a petition to eliminate the death tax. Representative Mannix is bringing that a petition, and we're going to work that hard to get that across the finish line. So that's on the November ballot. The other thing I'm doing is, our governor pushed through a bill that disconnects us from the federal tax code. And two key areas. One area is if you buy an American car, HR 1 allowed us to write off the interest payments. And Governor Kotek took that away with Senate Bill 1507. But the bigger chunk of it was she took away the ability to accelerate depreciation rates. The whole reason for that was to invigorate business, to incentivize investment, to buy equipment, to build stuff. And she took that away. She took away the state tax incentive for that. So I told him on the floor of the House, Senate Bill 1507, if you pass this, we're going to refer this bill to, and it will be on the ballot in November. So that's our plan. As soon as the governor signs it, because she's delayed signing that bill too.
Yeah.
So anyway, that should give you a clear idea where I'm at with taxes. We will also cut spending. There is no reason we can't cut state spending by at least 10%.
Okay. I like that. And so back to the hunting, I would say I like suggestions from sportsmen. Okay. So I think our best solutions on guns are going to come from actual gun people. The best things when it involves the outdoors are going to come from actual sportsmen. And so this one is for hunting and wildlife access. Possible to put an easement on business properties that are 1,000 acres or bigger for public access. That seems like something that would be easier to accomplish.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about a farmer or a cattle rancher and he's got a lot of acreage and you want access to his land.
Well, I was thinking maybe timberlands, and I'm thinking timberlands, but then I fear, eminent domain. So maybe that's not a route that I really want to go.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to do that. My first reaction is no. I'm open to talk about it, but we have so many public lands. I don't know why we would feel the need to access the private lands. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I'm just bringing up stuff to talk about. I mean, obviously we're not.
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
Everybody's very respectful in the chat. I appreciate that. And yeah, that's 100%. So that's where I was kind of going. I kind of misread the comment, and like I don't want to take people's land for hunting access. That's not what I was envisioning there. But there's got to be a way that if you're going to receive a tax break, those gates should be open, right? So if you're benefiting off of the public, you should be.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something where I'm kind of where I would see somewhere we could fix.
Yep.
And so we're wrapping this thing up. Is there anything that I didn't talk about that you would like to talk about in the last few minutes?
I see somebody talking about IP28. Yeah, we talked about it. We all hate it. We're going to make sure it's defeated on the ballot.
IP28. IP28 is going to be great for us.
What's that?
I think it is. I think IP28 is going to be good for us because it's going to get people the ballot box. And I think that's what we're going to need to make sure that we get the change that we need. So,
I'll tell you that the key to taking back Oregon is the people need to show up. And we saw that with the referendum effort. We saw people who'd never participated in the election process, in the political process for the first time, going out, signing petitions, gathering signatures. And they had fun and they enjoyed it. And it crossed party lines. It was Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, non-affiliated, Constitution Party. Not only did they come out, they also saw on full display that we have a governor who openly defied the will of the Oregon people. Openly defied their best interest. And she thought she could get away with it because of she'd appease the special interests in the building. And she's spent her life in that business, in bureaucracy, in politics. She thought she'd done her job, and it didn't matter what the people thought, because we wouldn't be able to be organized and fight back. Well, we showed them we can organize, we will fight back, and that is how we take back Oregon. If we do that and we show up in the primary and we ride that through to November, we take back our state. We have over 200 and some thousand conservative-minded Republicans and non-affiliated voters that are not voting. If they vote, we take back our state. I feel I'm in a good position to rally those folks, and I'm also in a good position to rally those moderate non-affiliated voters that have finally had enough. They want a Republican that they can trust, that's just talking straight. They may not agree with everything they're saying, but they agree with most of it. They feel this guy will bring stable leadership and fix the problems with business and with education and with the homeless issue. And I really feel that's what I'm bringing, Derek. And that's my path to victory through the primary and through the general. I'm going to work it like nobody's business.
Awesome. And I got just a few more questions. So It looks like we have one from Tanya. So if Measure 114 would go into effect, would you support some kind of waiver for those of us who are disabled or low fixed income to be able to get the permit to purchase?
Yeah, that's well, I would support a waiver, but I'm not going to settle just at that. I'm going to find every way I can to make sure that it doesn't go into effect and nobody's constitutional rights are infringed upon. Yeah.
Perfect. That's and so this one right here, this one's a little spicier. And so this one, my question would Ed Diehl veto a transportation bill if he had anti-2A laws in it? And what are the 3 things he wants to do to help restore the constitution in the state of Oregon?
Okay, well, that's wild. Veto a transportation bill if it had anti-2A laws in it.
Like if there was an amendment, I guess I think what he means by that, and that's why I took it as kind of spicy. If there was like a dash something amendment that incorporated the 2A in there, so you have to make a decision: is it going to be transportation or is it going to be gun rights? You know.
Yeah, would I be able to line item veto a bill like that? That's interesting. You got to weigh everything on its merits. I can't even answer that
yeah,
question.
I think that's fair.
I would lean toward if there's anything in a bill that infringes on constitutional rights, I'm probably going to veto it. And then I just tell the legislature, fix this thing. Take the unconstitutional stuff out, get the transportation piece fixed. Yeah.
Okay, and this is my last question. We'll kind of wrap up with this. And so might not be firearm related, but one subject I'm not hearing that is the financial squeeze on everyone, and is energy pricing. Possible to make nuclear energy in Oregon and bring back Trojan?
Yeah.
Do you know much about that?
I'm one of the legislators that has, I might have the record, probably not quite the record, but close, for bringing pro-nuclear energy bills to Oregon. I want to see nuclear power in Oregon. We're not going to bring Trojan back. I think Trojan's been crumbled up. It's now, they're storing some waste there. That's it. But the thing to remember, that technology today is vastly superior to the technology that we used to build Trojan. We can build small modular reactors that use around 20 to 40 acres. They're very small. They can ramp up and ramp down safely. The safety and security of these is vastly superior. They're less money. Anyway, I'm a fan of nuclear power.
Awesome. Last one.
Let me hit on energy costs real quick.
Okay.
One thing that I will do as governor is I will repeal executive orders that are driving up our energy costs. The Clean Fuels Program, the Climate Protection Plan, which is just kicking in. We haven't felt the impacts on our energy bills yet, but these are done by executive order. They shouldn't be. I have another constitutional amendment to fix that problem, but absolutely, I'll be making efforts to reduce energy costs.
Okay. And
Yep.
my last one, I like this one, is what is the strongest defining difference between yourself and Drazen? Why should the people of Oregon unite behind you over Drazen? I like that one.
Well, let's talk about gun rights. I'm honored to have the endorsement of Tony Aiello, of Derek LeBlanc, and now I have the endorsement of Kevin Starrett. So I think from a Second Amendment perspective, I have clearly am the strongest Second Amendment person. In addition to being, I haven't received the endorsement. I'm going to get it from the NRA. I'm a lifetime NRA member. Also, I'd say, for me, my background is in business and engineering. That's how I spent my career. I built a business in Oregon. I'm bringing that kind of free market perspective to the governor's office, and I think that is unique in the whole field. And I really, really think that's what we need now. We need kind of a business renaissance in this state. Our agencies are driving our economy into a ditch, and that is at the direction of Governor Kotek. And I think we need somebody with that business background in there making better decisions.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. And so we're going to wrap up. So where can people find out more information about your campaign? How can they get involved? How can they follow you? Where do they find you at?
Well, if you go to eddiehl.com, EDDIEHL.com, and you can find all my links to social media. I'm very active on X and Facebook and Instagram and coming on TikTok. You can look about my policies. You can also go there, donate to my campaign, volunteer as well, and also indicate that if you want some campaign signs. We've got campaign signs around the state. We have the greatest grassroots machine of any campaign. We're building it out, but I'd love folks' support.
No, and I think I'm going to close out here. I just want to take a moment to just say, thank you for joining me. I know this is, you've got a hectic schedule, and I appreciate you kind of fitting me in. I also appreciate all the work that you did on our behalf that helped us in House Bill 4145. I mean, it was great to hear from you every day and kind of, get a temperature before I was walking into the building, so I knew what I could expect.
And it's great to have, it's rare that we have successes in that building, Derek. And we had one with 4145. And thank you for everything you did on that.
Well, and that's where we were unofficial at the time. We're going to become more official. We're going to become a machine. But it was a team effort. There were so many great folks that were involved. All the people that watched the videos, that sent emails, that submitted testimony. It was a group effort, and it was so great to see all of us working, towards the common goal of pushing back and stopping. I mean, obviously House Bill 4145 turned out better than I could have ever imagined, just by the way it all went down. And so I'm thankful for everybody that kind of followed along and were part of it. And also, thank you for your leadership and the help with the Rule 27 complaint. That was pivotal. And that's why I'm going to be endorsing you, is I like the way you governed. I felt that you had a good demeanor about you, and that's where I'm throwing my hat behind you in the primary. That being said, I am going to support whoever wins in the primary. So
will I.
Yeah, and that's where all of us as conservatives have to get behind. It's not about that perfect candidate, but it's going to be about the one that can win, and we all need to show up in November and make sure that we vote.
You bet.
So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for joining me, Ed. I appreciate you. And I will see you in, I think, next week or the week after in Coburg. You're doing an event with Steven. And so I'll see you there.
Yeah. You bet. All right.
So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. So
thank
you. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you again. In stream.